the night of the massacre, so that he may know my vision is true.
So, after some delays brought about by holidays and the like, we're now in 2024 and able to continue with the investigation of Alex Thornton, Treasury agent and wealthy man about town. So, before we leap into the fray, let's start with a quick recap of where we left off 4 weeks ago now, I think.
So we had started just after getting back to the house, kind of hurriedly going through it, and then in a fit of stress, trying to decide who I would need to confide in, where I left my home, walked towards the Harvard campus to Professor Carol Spinnaker's house after hours, where I was pretty sure he would be there. There, I divulged my experience to someone who I could confide in as being a former professor. And during that time there, my experience became even more stressful as there were some slightly strange events and some realizations that began to happen. I did manage to finally get a decent night's sleep after wearing out, hopefully not wearing out his patience, but definitely maybe mentally wearing him out with the stress I was under. Early in the morning, I arrive back at my home, and as I'm approaching, I can see a figure standing in front of my house, which I then realize is Officer John Malone.
Yes.
Who's apparently been here for quite some time, waiting in the cold. He assures me that I no longer have to worry about what had happened to him, as his, and I'll call it at this time, an alibi, is that he was out on the town trying to relieve the stresses of his marriage and job.
Right, they'd gone out on some kind of binge.
Yeah, him and his fellow cohorts, because it was more than just him who was apparently missing at the time. Throughout the conversation, I can tell that he definitely has been here for a while because of the trash he has left in my front yard, which I will have to pick up later.
Discarded cigarette butts.
Yeah. But of most important note, as we are just kind of coming to the end of that session, is that I begin to realize throughout this conversation that Malone is not breathing, or at least apparently maybe under his police officer's peat coat-like thick exterior, he may not be breathing.
Right. The breath fog that you are exuding is not being matched.
Is not being matched by him.
By him. Yeah. Okay. And that's where we shall resume.
As kids, our mothers told us that if we did what we were told, stayed out of trouble, and looked to good men and women as role models to better ourselves, we could achieve the American dream. It's hard not to wonder now as the drought eats the heart out of the country and the dust delivers black blizzards and poor men beg for food while rich men fall from the sky. Did they know they were lying? Broken families, broken dreams, broken promises, moments of charity, holding off starvation for another day, so that suffering can carve deeper marks in the rag-clad children of destitute parents cowering in confusion in the shadows of well-heeled shot callers, for the gangsters and politicians, with the police taking money from both to keep the peace. Keep your nose clean. Keep it to the grindstone. Keep it out of others' business. The words of our mothers echo down the streets lined with ragged folk with tin cups praying for soup. Can anyone turn this free fall into flight? Is there an answer out there that brings sense to madness? Or do we keep swimming our way toward Asculum?
Early in the morning, in front of your house, you're on the stairs in front of your door. The snow is disturbed all around your car, which laid quiet and slowly freezing over as you spent the night a few blocks away at Carol Spinnaker's house.
Mm-hmm.
The tracks around the car of someone waiting more or less patiently. Tracks of someone who'd walked up to the door maybe more than once to check, is anybody there? And your own steps up onto the stairs. And Malone, with his hands deep in his pockets, looking at you as you're looking at him. And, and the breath fog is creeping up your face and stinging at your eyes, because it's bitterly cold this morning.
So with a kind of creeping sensation of the hairs on the back of my neck beginning to prickle, the cold sweat breaking out as I begin to realize that I may be seeing what I think I'm seeing, given what I've experienced so far. I'll tell Officer Malone that, I appreciate you following up with me and let me know that you're okay. I understand that, the stress of the job and a marriage can really get to a man, especially in these dire economic times. But that I do appreciate him checking in and letting me know that he is okay as a fellow officer of the law. And I do kind of emphasize officer of the law. And I'll slowly turn, not really giving him a chance to say anything in retort, because I don't want him to see the kind of slowly paling of my face more so than the ruddiness complexion of winter could give me, as I stick my hand into my pocket, start to get my keys out, and make my way towards the front door.
He watches that, or at least that's what it feels like on the back of your head, that he's just standing there watching. He says, "So we understand each other then?"
As I'm kind of staring at the window panes of the front door, I say, "Oh, I definitely believe that we have an understanding that you are safe and sound, officer."
All right.
Slide my keys into the front door.
I have two things to say, if you care to listen.
Leaving the keys in the front door after it's been unlocked, I will slowly kind of turn around, not approaching the front of the steps, because the way I'm positioned now, I have the higher ground, and just kind of wait for what he has to say.
Are you nervous?
A man in my position as a Treasury agent benefits from a healthy sense of paranoia.
Wise words. All right then. This first thing, takes his hands out of his pockets, I'll leave on your car. You can come look at it whenever you're ready. It's just a small piece of white paper or card, a business card, no doubt. That is a number where you can reach the man you know I'm talking about. Now,
And the second thing?
don't go thinking you can use the number to find him or roust him or arrest him or any of those things. It's a contact number. I know you'll try anyway, but let me know. I'm telling you now that you're wasting your time. But it's your time to waste. Treasury agent of the Prohibition Bureau. The second thing is you have an opportunity for a great and shining career ahead of you. It
sounds like something my father would say.
Well, if your father's a wise and prescient man, then maybe he would. But in the next few days, something billed as a tragedy will happen. But you and I know, or you will know, that it's the lifting of a great blight from the city of Boston. There will be a massacre.
I'll slowly begin to walk forward towards the top end of the barrister. If you have information that could prevent such an event from happening in the loss of senseless lives, it would be within your duty to provide such information.
I 100% agree. But the lives lost will not be innocent.
How so?
What is the biblical punishment of a murderer, Agent Thornton?
Well, if you're speaking Old Testament, it would be eye for an eye.
In New Testament, we would just forgive the murderer and all would be well. Right? Are you an Old Testament or a New Testament man, Agent Thornton?
I cleave to my own testament.
All right, then. I cannot tell you when, for I do not know, nor was I told. I cannot tell you where, though I have guesses. I cannot tell you how, and Lord, preserve me, I do not want to know. But the word I was told to make sure you understood was massacre of evil men. By this word, you shall know it is your sign. And if you choose to lead the investigation, great success and satisfaction will come your way. And you will not be asked to investigate in any particular way or ignore any particular thing.
And is this to serve our mutual acquaintances' ends?
I was told that a man walked around down on the docks in the bright light of day and inquired if he could be of help. The answer is yes. The city of Boston needs someone who is not on the take, who is incorruptible.
Not that I am not interested in hearing more of what you might have to say, but it feels as though that is the extent of the message that you could give me, right?
Anything else would be pure fabrication on my part, and then I would grow parched, and I'd want to feel the sweet liquid of my homeland pouring down my throat, but alas and alack, I really should get home to my wife.
Then get home and get some rest. and I will keep my peepers peeled for what may be coming.
Do so.
After he's left, still bag in hand, but keys in the door, I'll recover the card from the top of my car, tuck that away on the inside pocket, double check for the tarot card, then return to the front door. As I'm coming in, opening the door, I am, making the turn to pivot, scan the street again. As I'm shutting the door, I don't move the linen blinds from the front. I leave them steady as they are, but I do immediately, as the door is shut, reach into my inside where my holster is, pull out my gun. I'm going to make my way around into the front room from the left part of this entryway, looking out through the front picture window area and scanning the street again to see if there's anyone else who may be on the street. Once I'm satisfied that the way is clear, I'm going to make my way through the main hallway, passing by the stairs that go up to the bedroom area, back to the back part of the house, to the kitchen, make my way to the back door, check the back door for any tampering. While I'm there, I will open the blinds, check the backyard, see if there's any footprints in the snow. Once I'm feeling comfortable that his pathway did not lead around to investigate my house, then I'll make my way back to into the kitchen. There on the kitchen countertop next to the wall-mounted phone, I'm going to grab the phone book, kind of looking at it as I'm making my way back into the front room to get back in front of the front picture window area. I'm going to start thumbing through, looking for fortune teller. At this point, my mind is grasping for some kind of connection with the so-called tarot card. And even though I think it's hocus pocus, the only people who may know anything about it or how to deal with it would be someone who kind of traffics in that. So I'll try and scan and find someone I might be able to go to. I'm going to write that number down on the same kind of like flip notebook that I've been keeping track of where I've been going and what I've been doing in. That goes into the pocket. Again, check for the tarot card again. I know I need to check in at work, so I'm going to kind of hurry upstairs. I'm still even though I'm a little creased, I'm going to just change out the shirt, shave, not going to shower. I am going to stop off and make sure that I do. Where are you at? Make sure I am going to pack both the 45 auto and the 32.
Where do you want to carry them?
45 auto, shoulder holster, 32 back hip holster. So just at the small of the back. And into my Gladstone bag, I'm going to pack an extra box of ammunition for both. Do the rest of the niceties, just kind of grab a quick bite, maybe an apple and egg real quick, something I can fry up in a pan. And then, when I get outside, going back to the car, I am going to investigate the front yard, just kind of, looking around as I'm making my way to the car, not trying to be obvious about it, but just scanning the neighborhood, looking at the front yard for any tracks or anything that may have been going into the front. And then again, checking this side of the house, going back down the driveway towards the detached garage at the end of the driveway in the backyard, seeing if anybody had been making their way through the snow towards the back of my house. Once satisfied,
You're
get in the
satisfied.
car. Okay.
Doesn't smell like anyone was there. Doesn't look like anyone was there. Just around the car.
Just around the car.
Just around the car. It's hard to feel satisfied.
Putting my
But there's no evidence of any reason to be unsatisfied.
Knowing that these tracks are kind of going around the car, instead of getting in and putting the Gladstone bag in the seat next to me, I'm going to walk around the car. What I'm looking for is to just see if it's just footprints. Did someone lay in the snow? Did someone...
No.
Okay. So open the passenger door, put the bag in, go back around to the other side. On my way back to the other side, really quickly check the trunk, make sure that the rest of the stuff that I usually keep in the back is still there, that there's not been anything tampered with there, and then get into the car. This feeling of being watched and paranoia is obviously beginning to set in as every time I feel like I'm making a move, it feels like someone is knowing what I'm going to do or knowing where I'm going to be, even though as a citizen, my address is probably public and any police officer might be able to inquire and figure that out. The only contact I've ever had with the precinct that Malone was at was when I went there to inquire myself. And that was not that long ago. Get the car started up, as best I can on this cold day, maybe a couple of hard starts, and then make my way to the office at the Treasury.
Okay. So your neighborhood, as seen from the window, was normal. Paper delivery, all the stuff, just normal. Trash cans out on some streets, trash cans not out on other streets. More snow than you'd expect for November, but
we are on the
more
coast.
People walking because of the snow. Lots of people out shoveling and pretending it's not cold. By the time you make it to the office, you've seen a few bump and go kind of interactions and the trolleys moving slower, the huge breath plumes from the horses from the milk truck and other old style delivery units are still impressive, but they keep surfacing that memory of John Malone next to your car talking to you as if it were a summer day.
Yeah. Lacking the signs of life.
In the office, there is a bustle of activity.
Okay. I kind of walk in, I do have a fresh shirt on, a little heavier coat than normal. Looking around, I'm looking for Bill. And
Bill's at his desk behind his stacks of paper.
Just kind of holding out, my hands, Gladstone in one, looking around the office. So who put the juice through the wire, Bill? What's going on?
I love talking to you in the morning, Alex. It's like life is worth living, and you're going to go out there and live it.
As I'm making my way to my desk and putting the Gladstone on top of it, I just kind of say, well, that's not what they're paying me for.
Are they
In fact,
paying
they're
us?
barely paying me, Bill.
Well, it's a good thing you have a trust fund to fall back on.
It's if the trust doesn't fall through. Kind of
Well,
taking
you
out
keep
my notepad,
alienating your dad.
straightening up my desk. Bill, every son and father are always going to have troubles when the father wants their son to do something he really doesn't feel like he's good at.
Oh no, I'd have to add and then make millions. Woo! No, I understand. You're probably wondering why we've all gathered around.
Gathered. Looks like you're having a hustle.
There's a rumor that the chief might drop by.
Really? The chief of police or our boss?
Our boss. Who cares about the police?
Well, they can be valuable, if not sometimes overly lively, though.
Do tell.
I had an interesting conversation with one John Malone this morning.
Why Apparently do I know this name?
After kind of fiddling with the desk, I make my way over to where the filing cabinet is and, shuffling through the mass of papers that are there, pulling out one of the recent news articles about the missing persons. Walking over to Bill's desk, I kind of plop it down on his, amongst his pile, flip it open and say, well, you remember recently a lot of people went missing. Apparently, this Malone, a few of his fellow officers were down in the pier area, and I kind of look at him.
You mean in Morgan territory?
Yeah, the freshly minted Morgan territory.
Okay.
And by minted, I mean they are trying to gussy it up like a brand new $100 bill.
I heard that someone was buying a lot of paint.
Oh, he's buying a lot more than that. And he's putting a lot of people to work. Not that there's anything suspicious about that. I mean, every Joe.
There might be something suspicious about where the money's coming from.
Well, I kind of smile and I said, you remember you said you had somebody who wanted to go out and be active, so.
Did you go visit the Morgans yesterday? Is that why you were all weirded out?
I didn't necessarily visit their favorite place, but I did run into a couple of, I can't really call them mobsters. I can't really say that they're in a gang, but they definitely were dressed businesslike, though they didn't look like businessmen with tattoos all over their faces.
You're kidding. Tattoos all over their faces? Like what?
So, yeah, like some tattoos? Pattern I couldn't really recognize. Not that I got a tattoo or anything or know too many people that have tattoos.
Can you sit with the artist?
I might be able to. I've been shaken over the past few days with everything going on. I can try and give as best description as I can. Why? We got somebody else matching something with tattoos on their face?
Well, no, but a file has to start somewhere, Alex. And if you met someone who seemed like they were in charge, if they gave you the impression that they were somewhere in the organization and they've got an identifiable mark like that, we should get a record of it so we can circulate it to other agents.
Making my way back over to my desk, I kind of pull open the middle drawer just underneath, where you sit, pull out the file that I've already been kind of putting together, bring it back over to his desk, hand it to him, and I say, this is most of what I've collected so far. More than happy to talk to the artist about what, and I'll call him, Xavier Morgan.
Fancy.
The guys with the tattoos were his associates.
There's more than one, so it's
two individuals taking notes, what looked to be like in accounting books. And this Morgan, I couldn't get too good a close a look at him. It wasn't like I was having a personal interview with him, trying to hold back some of the details about my encounter with him from Bill. But he did have some interesting things to say about putting people to work, trying to,
Let's get the recorder out and let's take your statement and start an actual report.
Who else is in here with us? Is it just me and Bill? You said there was a lot of flurry.
In your office, it's you and Bill.
Okay.
And then there's the secretarial pool. They're all busy. And then there's another office for the other agents. So there are people coming in and out. You're not alone, but right now you are the only two people in this room of Right,
All
and
right,
it
I will.
smells like burnt coffee, and it smells like typewriter fluid, and Bill's shoes, and paper. So much paper.
Still trying to, between giving a statement and relating the details to the artist of what I remember the tattoos looking like, providing a description of the two associates,
If
then
you're not
providing a
clear on
description.
the shape of the tattoos, at least tell us the placement, that we know that there is a large or small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Describing it as being what seems to be part of an entire pattern. It's not an anchor here and
Not random. Yeah.
not random. It's like a pattern. And I try and kind of describe, that shape, whether that was a sharp and angular or flowing like somebody writing on his face in script, spirals, or, that kind of thing. Color of hair, all the details that I can provide about their physical appearance. I can't really describe their height since they were sitting down, and neither was Morgan. He never stood up, from what I remember. Give the description of Morgan, kind of relate about, his plan to put people to work, what he's doing down there. I also described the two individuals, or the individual that brought me to him, as being, he was like a guy that looked like at one point he was down on his luck. Now he's got a job. He's trying to be really productive, but he was also very, I wouldn't say reserved or aloof, but he didn't seem the brightest star in the sky.
Now, the recording is being made. The wax cylinder, right? Bill leans in. Do you get the sense that these boys are being paid? Or is it something more political?
They're probably getting some greenbacks, but they're also probably getting pay in other ways. They got a house over their head, probably someplace they can stay if they're really that down on the luck, like, flat back on their alley, in the alley. From my time down there, it looked
signs
like
of
people were,
churches or meeting halls.
no real religious association. I didn't see any Catholics down there, no fathers, no priests, no monks.
Okay.
And I'm
sorry. I keep interrupting, but I'm so excited.
Bill, you need to get out more.
No. I need to file reports.
All right. Well, as long as we can work together on this, and I'm sure we can, I'll keep going out
put
and
my
eating
name
the shoe leather up.
first, and then I put you in as the associate investigator.
Okay. Just try and give as much detail about, here's where I was at.
Yep. So please, if you could, give me an idea roll. Not to have an idea, but to present your ideas.
Pretty good at 65, 66. So, as to the best of my recollection, I provide as many details about the location, the two gentlemen with the books, Xavier Morgan,
right,
and the condition that the pier is in.
Sure.
From what we knew before to what it looks like now, even though I never went inside, that favorite place that the Shaughnessy's had down there, I did kind of go around it, describe how it's been improved or upkept.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this takes most of the morning, and there's lunch, and then into the afternoon. The two sketches, they're passable. The updated tactical map of that area is pretty satisfying report, and the beginning of collection of details about the who's and the what's and the movements and whatnot is taking shape into a good file, raising some operational questions. Bill wants to know, where's the money coming from? They're buying paint, they're buying tools, they're buying lumber. Where's the money coming from? Have they taken over the smuggling and rum running operations of the O'Shaughnessy's directly and benefiting from that? Do they have their own, and are they benefiting from that? Is it something more sinister, some other form of less acceptable vice? Where's the money coming from? He circles it, on his legal pad.
At this point now, kind of as we've kind of been talking this thing out, and he's coming to this kind of a questioning conclusion from our discussion, I would say it makes most sense to me that he's taken over, if not all, some of the operation down there. It's already in place. Why not? Plus, the area of the pier that he's in, we already know it's highly defensible. From what I saw walking around down there, there's not a whole lot of vantage points from flop houses or anything like that where it could be surveilled. Most of it's all warehouses down there, so you'd be spending most of your time on a rooftop somewhere out in the cold.
Yes.
Do we have anybody we can call on
to spend their day on a rooftop? No, but we could recruit from... Well, that means we could recruit from the police, and I don't trust any of the police. I think they're all on the O'Shaughnessy payroll. I mean, anybody responsible for assigning people to a thing are on the take. I'm sure there's honest cops. I haven't met one. I'm sure there is one.
At this point, kind of standing by the windows, looking out down at the street, that's still that kind of sense of paranoia. Just kind of watching people and the activity on the street. I kind of turn around and tell Bill, I'd have to agree with you. I would think that if he's taken over some of more the O'Shaughnessy's operation specifically, that he may already or possibly have his hooks in whatever connections he may have had in the police force, especially the district that's already down there.
Yeah. So here's what popped into my mind this morning when you came in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I met Officer John Malone. I'm thinking, oh, really? Right? So what if the O'Shaughnessy's own John Malone? And then what if John Malone says, hey, where's my money coming from now?
He'd be the most likely
to the Morgans. And he was happy when you were talking to him? Like he'd been paid or something? This is just the first thought that came to my mind. I mean, I haven't met any of these people. And I've been up all night and I've been drinking too much coffee.
As we're at the end of the day, kind of, I know Bill spends most of his time here, but he's pretty active on my feet. I'm kind of collecting up my accoutrements, loading the Gladstone bag, and kind of shaking my head, thinking about the experience with him, with Malone, and just kind of looking up at Bill and in a bit of a deadpan stare. I'd say I wouldn't call him overflowing with life and an appreciation for it at this point.
He's one of those hard-bitten cops, is he?
Kind of making my way to the coat rack, getting dressed up, ready to go back out of the cold. I'd say he was on his way out. Bill, there's just a lot of walking to do.
Hey, no judgment. That's how you keep your lean physique.
That and I don't eat much.
Well, you should try. If you're, the way to be happy and truly healthy is to be married. And the way to be unhappy and nagged constantly is if you're a married man with an unmarried associate, friend, neighbor, fellow club member, or whatever. So my wife knows some people.
I'm just kind of staring at, not dead-eyed staring at him, but just kind of staring at him. Bill, you know what it's like for guys in our line of work?
Being a guy in our line of work, I'm intimately acquainted with it.
So I think you would understand if I would refrain from getting too attached.
Elliot Ness is married. I'm married.
Good for Ness. Good for you. Might not be that good for me.
You're not going to put yourself on the line for your old buddy Bill who's going to go home to tell his wife that Alex wasn't interested. That's fine. Go investigate. Go save the world.
All right, Bill, is she a looker?
I'm married. I'm not allowed to say or look.
Oh, for crying out loud, Bill. I look around the room. I don't see the wife here. It's just two guys. This might not be a locker room, but it is certainly our office.
The walls have ears. No, seriously. She's pretty cute. You like blondes, right?
Yeah.
Blue eyes.
Yeah.
5'3".
I like him a little taller, but, you know, I can't complain.
Heels.
All right, Bill. Try and set something up. Nothing fancy.
Right. Friday, that Italian place in my neighborhood.
Okay. I will try not to get killed between now and then. And I await with anticipation.
I got to tell you, Alex, while I'm praying desperately for my own death any minute now under this avalanche of paper, even if I die, the date is still on.
All right. I got some holes to wear in these shoes, Bill.
Keep your receipts. Take good notes.
Hey, just because we're with the Treasury doesn't mean I'm going to get a write-off from the IRS. And that's
No,
what
it
I
just
say
feels good to keep your receipts.
as I let the door kind of close behind me and make my way.
He's still
down
talking to himself behind the closed door. You don't so much leave an office with Bill as you would escape an office with Bill.
Yeah, the foot constantly pointing towards the door as I'm creeping my way there.
Okay.
Heading back downstairs. I know it's still going to take, I need to give my father's office a more than, I think it's only been like a day. Really couldn't expect them to find.
It's been 24 hours.
Yeah, but I can't really expect them to find a whole lot in 24 hours.
Too soon.
So before I head to the house, I pull out my notebook, flip to the address of this fortune teller I just picked it kind of at random that may or may not be close to the Harvard campus. You know, I don't want to drive too far across town. Gas is getting kind of pricey these days.
Yeah. But
and I'll make my way to the fortune teller.
Okay. Now, this is a nice, respectable house in a nice, respectable neighborhood. Older house, well maintained. It's hard to tell what the yard is like under the snow, but the walk has been meticulously cleared. And the sidewalk in front shows signs of, large pieces of salt that have been scattered. in anticipation of ice. Under the thin blanket of snow, you can see flower mounds and the like. It's just a well cared for property. What's unusual about it is that all of the windows have the blinds drawn. All of them.
Is it a walk-up or a front porch type setup?
Front porch, there's a nice, slightly curving, decoratively curving walkway up to wide stairs with convenient hand railings that go up to a wide double door that have oval glass panes in the middle of them, blinds also drawn. And very discreetly, there is a small kind of green tinged copper plate that confirms this is the address you're looking for, right? And it's Madame Beauvais readings is all it says. Madame Beauvais, Beauvais.
So when I go up the steps, I'm not going to like stomp off them, but I'm going to, because I haven't called ahead, I'm just kind of showing up on the doorstep. But I am going to try and give a little weight to my step as I'm moving across the front porch to let somebody know, if they were in the front area, that someone is approaching their front door. Get up there, give the glass, a decent knock, and just wait.
Okay. A door inside the door opens and closes, and a shadow against the blind takes shape. And the door opens slightly, and a deep but somewhat quavering voice from age says, Madame Beauvais is not taking appointments at this time.
Is there a point at which I might be able to make an appointment? She booked up for the next 24 hours.
Sir, what is your name?
My name is Alexander Thornton. I'm a member of the Treasury agency. I don't normally throw my badge around in a way like this, but it is kind of important that I speak to someone.
One moment, please. The door closes, and the inner door opens and closes. Time passes. The inner door opens and closes, and the outer door opens just a little bit, now a little bit more, so you can see a well-dressed butler. Right. Older. Maybe into retirement age, really. Right. Who looks at you with grave concern. Please come in. He clearly thought about his words and then just gave up and said, please come in.
Okay. Come in through the front,
So he looks at your shoes and the mat to wipe your feet.
Okay. As any unannounced guest should, I will shake off the shoes, knowing that there's an atrium area that kind of goes in before the house. I ask him, is this where you would like me to leave my things, or is there someplace I can have these held for me inside?
I will take your coat and hat.
Hand everything over. My suit coat is buttoned so that the shoulder armpit holster is not, obvious. I'm not flashing iron. And I do try and loosen up the bottom button to keep everything loose around my waist. Although in the back of my head, I'm also thinking that if the guy with the tarot card that gave me the first one can see what I'm doing, she probably knows about what's about to happen anyway. But the whole time I'm trying to comply as best as an unannounced guest could in someone's home.
I will take you in here. And he indicates a salon off to the side. It's a cold day. Would you like a warm drink?
Coffee if you have it. Just black.
So late in the day?
Not trying to really emphasize the strained look on my face. I say, yeah, I still got work left to do tonight, even after I leave here.
Oh. Just shakes his head with sympathy. Takes your coat, takes your hat. He moves off. He indicates that you're welcome to enter the salon.
Gonna go in and sit down on the fainting couch.
Right.
arm
This is
over
hardwood
back,
floor.
high rise. Oh,
Right.
Nice.
It's hardwood floor, dark stain. The entryway, once you get in through those inner doors, there is a beautiful reddish, deep red runner of a rug heading toward the stairwell. Under a thick, translucent plastic carpet protecting runner.
So there's that tack, tack, tack of the plastic noise as you walk on it.
Yeah. And that red carpet runs all the way, curving up the stairs. The room that you are in also follows that red theme, red accents. The books on the bookshelves have been redone in red leather. The wood tables and side tables, end tables are all in a darker red stain. Central fireplace, which at one point in the house's history would have been essential for the heat of the house, but is now more decorative, is all in a pristine white, as are the walls. But the little knickknacks and things on the mantle and scattered around all have this red accent, including the furniture, which is, if not velvet, velveteen.
I will, on the way to the fainting couch, as you're kind of just looking at the books on the shelves, just kind of looking at the titles, already trying to profile out maybe the potential personality or interest of my somewhat accommodating host at this point. Sit down on the couch and just wait, patiently.
A lot of the titles indicate an interest in math and scientific dissertation. Some of the titles don't seem like book titles. They seem more like academic dissertations.
Okay.
There are more popular things. You definitely see the name Crowley, A. Crowley, interspersed in a few places. And things about Egypt. But that's really all you have time for before the butler returns with a tray, a teapot, coffee pot, all the various things that are required for the 2 cups that are there, and he places it in a central location, and behind him comes Madame Beauvais, who in her prime was probably as striking as any movie starlet. But for some reason, even though she's still very striking, has heavily made up her face, like extremely, like for some reason. And her hair is complexly curled and arranged, and she has necklaces and rings and bangles and pins, and she is adorned heavily. And with her comes the scent of a nice floral perfume, but also the darker sense of incense or spice or something like that. And she holds out her hand.
Stand up, approach her, give her the cursory kiss on the hand, the back of the hand. And I say, I appreciate you seeing me unannounced and unappointed. And
I left this part of my day clear because I had a sense that something terrible was going to happen, but I didn't know that terror would have such a handsome face.
I stunned hearing the similar kind of phrasing. I'm picturing Xavier Morgan's face and his reply and announcement about anticipating me. Do you have any idea why I might be here then?
Well, I do hope it's not a missing person.
Recently, one of the guys I was looking for actually came forward. But
oh, good.
Events are kind of connected.
Well, I was hoping it was an affair of the heart.
I may have a question or two about that, if you want to open up with it. Okay. I'll make my way over to the bookcase and say, an office friend of mine recently kind of twisted my arm to go on this date.
You're
not exactly sure of it.
You're not happy about being fixed up?
Let's just say I'm not exactly of the mind to drag a woman into the kind of profession that I'm involved in.
Oh,
as I told,
noble.
I would say a rational romantic.
Oh, the young. All right, then. So would you like to... Oh, you've ordered coffee. You can't read your tea leaves with coffee. The cards, then?
I kind of nod my head, yes. And though my hand wants to go to the breast pocket, I don't raise it. Is this to be, and I kind of raise my eyebrows, a tarot reading? Is that what they call it?
Yes. Certainly. But first we need a card to represent you.
I wait. I'm watching her. I'm watching the table. I'm not, my hand starts to sweat. I want to reach for the card and say, here is the one, but I'm not going to do it.
Okay. She invites you to sit down. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. Are you Catholic?
You couldn't fully say I'm agnostic, but I am starting to have doubts.
All right, well, what we do here is science. It's not magic. It may feel like magic, but you are not sinning by visiting me. You're not sinning by having questions about the future. And the world is full of signs and omens. The Bible tells us this is true also. Let those with ears hear, let those with eyes see. So I look at you and I see a young and dashing man in a noble profession, dark of hair and bold of eye. So I think for you, the card we need is going to be, and she's shuffling through the deck, is going to be a knight, indeed a knight of swords. That is you. And
Lick my lips.
she's showing some sign of agitation as she's shuffling through the deck. And then she just kind of like rolls her eyes and governs herself, and she spreads them all out in one smooth motion so she can see all the faces. Cards are symbols, and they reveal the secrets of our hearts and our minds and the world to us. And then she stops.
Something wrong?
Something has happened to my deck. The card I seek is missing.
Shuffle, fidgeting in the seat. One hand, left hand on the armrest, elbow up, right hand, elbow down. I'll kind of unbutton my coat. If I give you the card, are you really going to be able to give me some answers?
How did you get Mike?
And I'll slowly reach in as she's asking and pull out the card. Again, as I lay it on the table, when she looks at the card, she can see my index finger turning white as I am pressing the card into the top of the table. And I will reluctantly slide the card across to her. She can get the feeling that I do not want to let it leave my possession.
Well, that's not my card. I
No.
mean, it's the correct card, but it's not my card.
No, I'll flip it over so she could see the back and the front. I can't explain it. And that's why I'm here.
But your card has no knight.
I can't explain it. But this is the card you're looking for. Can you use it? I still haven't taken my finger off of it at this point.
No, and I think you should leave. I don't understand this at all. I don't understand what you're trying to do.
I kind of nod my head, slide the card back to me. I'm putting it in my inner coat. I'm getting up from the chair. Seeing the math books on the shelf, I'll kind of turn to her and say, if you think it's a science, what's the probability that I could walk into a random building somewhere in Boston and run into a man who seems to know something about me, things that don't really go outside my family? The problem is, and I look at the cards on the table, this is way outside my purview. I mean, I may be a Harvard graduate, but I'm no student of anthropology. I didn't study cultural history. My life has been dictated by punches you can take in the ring and punches you can take on the street when you work for the law. And now questions are coming up. I've seen a few things that make me question my own satisfaction with my job, my family. But this card came to me. I can't tell you exactly why it doesn't have a picture of a knight on it. I'm a little embarrassed about that. It makes me, and I give her a very serious look, question my own sanity.
Then, Agent Thornton, I have two answers for you. One, someone is trying very hard to make you believe what they want you to believe. And trust me, as a reader of fortunes, I know all about that. Your secrets may not be as safe as you think they are, and someone might have something to gain by tearing you down. I don't know if you're a wealthy man. I don't know if you're related to someone important. I know nothing about you. But someone with time and perception studying you can learn more about you than maybe you know yourself. And that's worth doing if the person thinks there's something to gain. The other thing, and this I say from my heart and my love of mathematics, is that magic might be real. And if it is, you should start running now.
Kind of staring down at the carpet as she's finishing up. I can't run. That's not what a Thornton does.
Then be true to that card. The knight's world is crumbling around him. The winds of war are sweeping past, but he is charging into battle. He may not survive. He may be changed by the experience. But he is marshaling his own will.
Gathering up my coat. I know we're kind of wrapping up. I'll approach approach the table where she's at.
She's so small now. This large lady just seems so small and collapsed in on herself.
Reaching around in my back pocket, kind of pulling out my wallet. I'll look at her and say, I appreciate you seeing me unannounced. I don't mean to frighten you with what I've had to say, but you definitely helped give me some insight.
I don't handle the money.
Okay. I thank her again. Thank you very much for seeing me unannounced. Hope you have a wonderful morning. Thank you for the coffee. I look down at the cards, head towards the front.
The butler's
Do I see
waiting.
the butler's
With
waiting?
your coat and hat.
Get the coat and hat on. I've still kind of got the wallet in my hand. Without looking, I just reach in and grab whatever money is in the wallet and tell him, I say, I hope this is enough to cover my unannounced appointment.
I'm sure it shall be, sir.
And I gather my Gladstone, look out the window, and head back out into the night.
Okay. And it's
from here.
cold.
Yeah. From here, I'm going to the boxing gym because I've got a lot of built up tension and I need something to get some kind of release before I head back to the house. So the plan is to go there, hit the jump rope, hit the bag, hit the speed bag. I'm not going to do any practice rounds with anybody. I'm not really going to try I'm sure there might be a couple other guys there, but I'm not really I'm going to be a little bit more aloof and restrained than when I normally go in, to kind of give them that feeling like, hey, Alex just doesn't want to really be approached. So I'm not really the most intimidating guy, but I just want to go in there and focus on a real quick workout and then head back to the house to call it a night.
Okay. Usual crowd is there, right? Some of them working out, some of them just talking, some of them talking a good game, but a lot of exercise. That thick smell of sweat and the sound of glove hitting bag, right? And the constant badgering of the the corner coach, right? Keep your
Mhm.
keep your fists up. Keep your fists up. Circles, circles. Just over and over again. Just that familiar, friendly rhythm helps start that relaxation process. But Steve's name's not on the sign-up sheet. His locker space that he always uses, it's empty.
So kind of standing here as I'm getting ready to take out, seeing the sign-up sheet, seeing, having seen the locker situation, the guy overseeing the gym kind of from the desk position, just kind of mentioned, hey, what's been up with Steve? You seen him in past couple of days?
Well, he was what? He was here with you 2 nights ago, not last night, night before. No, he's here every night. I didn't really notice. Maybe he's sick. He smiles
Okay.
at you. Has no teeth. Yeah.
Got a little cauliflower ear. All right. Well, if you see Steve, remind him, hey, I still got a job offer in for him at my dad's office. I think the guy could do some good and have some good done to him by having a good, solid job.
Yeah, that's nice of you. Yeah, I expected him here. Like he paid his dues, but the night he left with you, so you'd think he'd be here. He's all paid up.
Plus, I'm, kind of pick up my bag and heading towards the door, and I go, well, you remember, Steve isn't exactly the most aggressive type. He may be a little intimidated about coming back in here for a minute when he got rousted by the guys the other day.
Yeah, but I don't know. Doesn't it feel like home?
As I'm walking out the door, I say, it definitely doesn't remind me of Harvard. Head back to the house.
Okay.
Okay. When I get back to the house, make a note in the notepad. Steve, check in. Morning note for myself. Head to Dad's office, or head to the accounting firm.
Right. Okay.
I am still gonna, the feeling of paranoia is still enough that whenever I'm pulling up in the driveway, I'm checking the snow. I'm not, even though most everybody else in the neighborhood probably has their driveway and sidewalk shoveled by now, people can probably tell that I've only got car ruts in my driveway. And it's definitely too late and too cold to do it at this point. So again,
you can feel the judgment from behind.
Yeah, I can feel the Joneses judging me. Head to the front door, make my way in.
No sign of anyone having been there since
Okay.
you left.
All right. Quick PB&J sandwich, maybe a glass of milk. Trying to, calm down after the boxing or the practice round. Do a little stretch in my bedroom, as I'm kind of getting undressed, trying to limber up. 45 goes on the nightstand next to me, and the 38 or the 32 is under the pillow.
In the morning. Not a good night's sleep, but sleep. In the morning, the room is exactly how you left it. There's a vague sense of blowing clouds, but that dissipates just like clouds do on a windy day.
Morning cup of joe, 1 egg fried hard, 2 strips of bacon and some toast. Get dressed, new clean shirt, new clean jacket, nicely, freshly shaven.
Yeah, feel better.
As I get to the front door and am getting ready to, my hands on the front door, I've got all the conversations just like rolling through my head. And as I'm walking through the front door and opening up, I kind of give before I grab the Gladstone bag with my left hand, I give my overcoat a good tug. And I say, well, if any knight's going to have some armor, it better look nice. Make my way out after getting the bag. I'm going to get in the car.
On the way out to the car, your pretty normal neighborhood has some abnormal things going on, which is more than a few men and some men and husband and wife pairs are just standing there holding their newspapers that they've picked off wherever it's landed, right, from the delivery boy, and just kind of gazing at the front page or talking to each other animatedly about the front page just down the street, as you can see.
Any one of them terribly close to me, like my neighbor?
Sure. Not too far a walk to get to anybody who's doing that. Like just on the same side of the street, not the next house, but the house after that. He works in shipbuilding or something like that.
Kind of walk down to the end of the driveway and yell across at him, hey, Clark, what's the rag say? Everybody's staring at it for some reason this morning.
You're not going to believe it. It's a massacre.
Striding over towards him, a little bit of a hollow whitish look on my face. What did you say?
The headline: Mob Massacre, all across the masthead.
Clark, you mind if I take this? I'll buy it from you.
Okay.
Give him the change.
He gives you the pay.
Immediately go back to the house, reading the newspaper, masthead, kind of looking at the article. Is there an accompanying photo?
There is a photo, but honestly, it's just too dark.
Does it feel like it might be of a room or like a location taken at night?
Of a room, overexposed, flash, and just the headline: Mob Massacre. The opening, right? Authorities are still trying to figure out how many men were massacred last night at the offices of Edward Driscoll, confidential investigator.
Go inside.
Authorities have not disclosed the method of execution, but sources close to this paper suggest it was not gunfire.
It's going to take too long to get to the office, so I go back into the house, grab the phone, and call Bill's office desk.
So you get through the operator, the secretary, to Bill. And Bill just says, yeah, just come in.
All right, I'll be there in a jiff. Won't make any stops. Hang up the phone. Again, just double check everything. Make sure I got the guns and I'm ready to go.
So after
head down to
reading
the
that
office.
first paragraph, it makes more sense. Photograph isn't bad, it's censored.
Okay. It's just, I got you. Head immediately to the office. I mean, originally I was planning on going to the accounting firm, but that's going to have to wait.
In the office, it's just like yesterday, except nobody's happy exactly. Right? There's a real look of fear. Like Bill talks about death every single day, maybe every hour of every day, but there's that look in his eyes like he'd rather be anywhere else than here. For real.
I mean, seeing him as I'm taking this in while I'm hanging the coat up. You said something about the boss being here. Is that today?
No. You're not going to believe this. Name an O'Shaughnessy. Name any O'Shaughnessy. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Don't bother. They're all dead.
All of them.
Well, I don't know. We can't tell how many people were killed.
I'll put the paper down, with the photo up and say, where's this at?
Oh, it's
disclose a location.
Yeah, it's a PI's office. It's not too far from. Well, it's not too far from anywhere really. Close to Chinatown. I don't have the coroner's report because they haven't finished it yet, and I gotta wait in line behind all the cops who now suddenly care about crime in the city. But I got it straight from the coroner's mouth. They found body parts. And get this, not cut, not sawed, right? Not blown up, but pulled apart, scattered across 2 floors of this rickety ass building. Blood and a viscera everywhere.
Looking at Bill, dead serious in the face. You know what I'm going to say next?
Good riddance to bad rubbish. No.
I mean, that may be generally the case, but the O'Shaughnessy's are one thing. I don't know who this Driscoll is from Dick. But
well, he wasn't there, as far as we can tell.
Really? Is the guy clean?
When we say it was Driscoll's office, it's this office behind Driscoll's office.
His neighbor?
A consulting firm, which is on our list of O'Shaughnessy holdings under the name of a Dr. Edward Call. So you can start to put the details together, some kind of mob doctor maybe. And the good Dr. Call is no stranger to being in the newspaper either, because he was caught up in some kind of abduction and murder scandal 5-6 years ago.
No conviction? The mob got him out.
There was no direct proof, and he did not get convicted, but his career was over. And he's related by marriage to the O'Shaughnessys.
It's convenient.
Well, it's convenient if you need an underground job, I guess, and you're a doctor.
We got an address on where this place is at?
Well, I can get one. And so he yells. And someone yells back.
Okay, yeah, just kind of as that exchange is going on and we're talking with Bill, I'm looking at the map, looking at the newspaper.
You're all fired up. You want to take point on this? Because I don't want to go see it.
I think at this point, Bill, I may be the only guy who wants to take point on this.
This is the kind of case that ruins careers, Alex.
Kind of striding across the desk, I'll just kind of not knock some of those papers off of his desk, but clear a little bit of space, and I'll put a half butt cheek on his desk, and I say, then I'll just have to be your knight in shining armor.
Find something that makes us look good. I'll put your name on the top of the file. Screw up, and I'll try and cover that up.
You're taking a big risk, Bill. I'll take a big risk for you too.
Hey, I'm going to retire soon.
Maybe I can help you get that bonus you're always talking about.
Well, then everything I do to put up with you on a day-to-day basis would suddenly be worth it.
Hey, going back and looking at the map, looking at the address, getting an idea of where I got to go from here to there, checking the desk, just kind of making sure nothing has been messed with. The feeling of paranoia and somebody having activity around me is still very present. Gather up my things, don my hat to Bill and say, let's just get the ball rolling. And I'll
There
head
should
out.
still be police there. There will still be ambulances there, because the last I heard was about 30 minutes ago. They still hadn't gotten all the remains out. It's not a great neighborhood. A lot of it is abandoned. So, drifters, who knows? So take your piece, keep your eyes peeled, don't trust any of the cops.
I got you, Bill. Just heading straight there. Not going to make any stops, not going to make any diversions.
Okay. Well,
This is the charge.
the street that the address is on is a weird one. It's not a U shape, but there's a main street, and then there's a narrow lane that then curves around to form a long street before it curves back around and rejoins the main street.
Okay.
Doesn't have any other branchings off.
Yeah. So not a cul-de-sac, but like a loop almost.
Yeah, kind of like that. So it's large enough that there are a couple of buildings on that main street.
Mm-hmm.
Tenement style buildings that look cold and terrible. And there's so much snow piled up in this small part of downtown that it's kind of surprising compared to how much snow there is elsewhere. But there are officers, there's fire department officials, and there are ambulance drivers and other assorted drivers standing around, and the whole area has been cordoned off, so you're not going to be able to drive up onto that street anyway.
Okay.
But
park as close as I can, if at all possible, where the car is in view from a distance. Maybe not necessarily perfect view, not going to be possible. All right, just Park it as close as we can. Make sure she's locked up. No firearms, no ammunition left in the car. Everything comes with me. The Gladstone bag included. I got the
So
badge
making
ready. Yeah.
Making your way in, you come to the, not exactly a police cordon, right? It's
Yeah.
more like a police mob. Everybody who's not actively doing something else is here just to watch. And the mood is varied. There are happy faces. There are disgusted faces, horrified faces. There are people who are being comforted, right? They've had enough. They've been overwhelmed by what they've seen. And there are very, very grim faces, right? Or almost like they're arrayed on guard.
Lieutenant or a sergeant that I can spot on the street?
Oh, yes.
Is he a grim-faced, a happy-faced, a disgusted face?
He just looks really tired, and he's got blood down the side of his face, and he doesn't seem to be aware that it's there, and he's mislaid his hat somewhere, right? And he's talking with the desk sergeant that you were speaking with the other night. And he's just talking about the distribution of, like changing the shifts and whatnot. And as you're making your way over, the desk sergeant indicates you and whispers something. It's probably like Treasury.
I brace myself for the typical acerbity I would get from an officer of the law on the foot.
Turns around, wipes his face, smearing the blood, even farther. Says, "Are you here to help, or are you just curious?"
I'm here to lend a hand. Dr. Edward Cowell had a record, if you maybe knew or recalled. This complicates a cold case investigation into money laundering and the potential abduction he was under investigation for in the past. And now with this, and I kind of look up at the building, doesn't look like it's going to make the case any easier.
Well, any investigation that you do into Dr. Edward Call is going to have to be posthumous. We found a lot of them inside.
Well, doctors are pretty good at keeping notes. And I kind of look at them both. My family does run an accounting firm, so I'm pretty good at chasing down notes. Like, for example, you got any information about really whether or not one of your officers was on a bender out from his family, taking a break, when he was suspected of being missing in action? I kind of look at the desk sergeant.
He leans in and just mouths, like he's like whispering just loud enough, but you can, Malone, John.
Just kind of nodding my head, looking around. If I just happen to see Malone, by instance, given all the cops down here.
Yeah, Malone is indeed there. He hasn't seen you yet.
Yeah. So I pointedly look back at the desk sergeant. One of your officers might not have been out on the town, right? Taking a bender. Or should I just sweep that under the rug? He showed up on the footsteps of my house.
Oh, did he?
He wanted to let me know he was okay, kind of explain what happened. Can't really say as I kind of look back across the crowd, and just to kind of keep a tagged eye on where he might be at if he ever notices me here.
That was on my advice, says the desk sergeant. His name is York.
Well, I appreciate you letting him know.
Well, I didn't want you to worry. I'm surprised you went to your house, though. That seems,
I would say, a little excessive. How's his performance been since he got back? You know, he was waiting out in front of my house for quite some time. Seems like a pretty heavy smoker.
His performance has been standing over there.
Just watching.
Why are you so concerned about Malone? Do you know something I should know?
Nothing in particular, but it's not very often I have a police officer show up at the foot of my house.
So the detective at this point kind of butts in. Says, look, you said something about accounting.
Want to take a look around, see if I might be able to find anything that I can piece together.
You want to take a look in there? Okay, let's go.
If he leads, I follow him.
He wants to go inside. I want to take a look around. He stomps up the stairs. Right.
As
And
we're
then he
going up
takes
the stairs, I'll say, it's pretty obvious you've never been to an abattoir before. Do you eat pork?
He steps over something and disappears into the foyer. Now the stairs have been swept clear of snow, but that hasn't removed the deep stain of blood that's soaked into the cheap concrete. And there's the acrid burn of vomit. Off to the side of the stairs, on the railing of the stairs, against the door. That's what he just stepped over, right in the doorway. The foyer is not large. The door has enough space to open, and there's maybe a foot beyond it and the base of the stairs. And to your left immediately is a bank of mailboxes. There is a evidence tag right there at the base of the mailboxes where something used to be and isn't anymore, and there's a pile of blood-soaked bills and eviction notices and things like that. Blood
just kind of
has run down the
at
stairs.
The bills.
Yeah.
I just want to note that room number. I mean, is it just random bills and stuff like that, or is it from a particular mailbox?
Oh, just
a random. Okay,
yeah.
Just detritus.
It's a collection where.
Okay.
Right.
Just want to make sure it's not from a specific mailbox or anything like that. Okay.
No. The blood flowed down the stairs, but also looking up the stairs, you can see that it splashed with force against the wall on the right side going up. And the detective says, "Follow me."
Keep following.
He's avoiding the sticky browning blood in the mostly dark interior.
I just make a note and say, did you ever notice how blood looks black in the dark?
Yeah. He goes up the side of the stairs and around and up to the first floor, and it's so noisy, like these stairs could collapse at any moment, right? Gunshot sounds and creaks, right? There's another large pool of blood here at the top of the stairs and another evidence tag.
How many different locations has this place been hit? Is this just the main one?
We'll see. To your left at the top of the stairs is the front of the building, and there's kind of dirty windows there, and there's a door on the wall, and there's a door at the back. There's only 2 doors on this whole floor, right? So you come up in the middle of the floor, and you turn left, to go to the front of the building to one office, or turn right to go to the back of the building to the other office. Front of the building, some private detective. I don't want to tell you what we found in there just yet. Dr. Edward Call apparently was holding court as some kind of mob doctor for the O'Shaughnessy's. Of course, he's related to them by marriage. Which you know. Excellent. So he opens the door. Now, there is a light bulb with cooked blood on it, sitting on a desk. That's the first thing that you can see when the door opens. It's a new light bulb hanging from the ceiling. You could be forgiven for thinking this room was painted red, but there's a beat, and then you recognize the wallpaper behind the red. And here there are body parts stacked, waiting for identification. Arms, hands, feet, parts of legs.
I'm counting lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty.
Heads. This room, there were 6, maybe 8 here. In the secret doctor's chamber, there were a lot more. Follow me.
As we're making our way across this room, I'm looking at the carpet. I know it's obviously going to be covered in detritus and all kinds of stuff.
Teeth,
Well, what I'm looking for is anything that was tracked that would be unusual, as far as like a shoe print or a boot print. Because I'm looking around this room.
Many shoe and boot prints now.
Yeah, just kind of bleed together. And
yeah. This room is no longer arrayed like it was.
Yeah.
Right.
They basically destroyed any evidence that might have been pulled out of it.
Yes. Now, we know that there was a reporter here who called this in. The newspaper is withholding the name.
It's a privilege of the press. It often complicates things.
I'm
trying to play into his sympathy a little bit as we're on the same side of the law.
So we're trying to figure out who that is. It's a short list. It's a crappy newspaper. It's the Post. I hate the Post. But then he gets serious again. Like he's trying to find anger. He's trying to find black humor, but all he's finding is just disbelief. We found Edward Call here. Well, we found his head and his hand here. Weirdly, some of the blood had been wiped off of his hand. We think a ring was stolen. The place was such a mess. There's a shattered bookshelf. It was leaning up against the desk. Everything that was on the desk is scattered all around the room. Pictures and doctor's degrees and things like this have been shattered and blown to pieces. Fragments of glass dug into the carpet. It's just, we have no idea if anything else was stolen, if there was anything of importance here. But here's where the filing cabinets are, so here's where I brought you.
Okay. I'm going to kind of cursory look. I'm looking for names I recognize from the O'Shaughnessy's or any information. I'm looking for business associations. The man probably doesn't do his own books. He may have some kind of record of who he may be in communication with, who might be handling something like that. I'm looking for potential mention of the Gavigans.
So as you're
and
working
Albert
yourself,
Gavigan.
as you're working yourself up to assess the filing cabinets, they are again thickly coated. To deal with them is to become physically acquainted.
Well, I got gloves in my pocket, so I'll definitely, once I got a drawer, I'm going to have one hand gloved to manipulate the filing cabinet with. The other hand is clean, not to leave any blood or anything. I can prevent any fingerprints or whatever on the files I may look at. Although at this point, I still had the feeling of somebody besides this sergeant looking over my shoulder at me.
So there's that. There's the glassy eyes of the dead. There's their teeth and smaller bones crunching underfoot, and there's the smell. When you were in motion coming up the stairs, it wasn't so bad. When the door downstairs was open, it wasn't so bad. But here, tucked away in a windowless room with that odor of fried something and the offal from inside, it's just too much.
Oh. I get dizzy. The lightheadedness begins to come on. The filing cabinet I'm at, I kind of lean into. I'm going to slowly begin to settle down, kind of on my heels, bend my knees and settle down into a heels sitting stance, no knees to the floor, leaning into the cabinet heavy, and
The
throw up.
detective is bending down with you. It's all right. You're not alone, man. We can have these files sent anywhere you want. Let it out. Oh, bacon. Oh. He hands you a handkerchief.
Standing up, my eyes are still cloudy, a bit teary. Kind of looking around the room at the massacre. I just mutter something about, the inhumanity of the event. How could anything have possibly caused this much trauma, this much harm?
You know what's worse?
I look at him.
Look at the walls and look at the ceiling. What he's pointing at are bullet holes. Not a few bullet holes. Lots of bullet holes. In here, out in the hall.
So you're telling me they were shooting up at something?
They were shooting everywhere at something.
Just kind of shaking my head, still trying to clear out, the cloudiness.
And there's one more thing. Now that you have dealt with the body, there's one more thing. He takes you over near the shattered bookcase that's leaning up against the desk. This is kind of awkward, but if you can get around behind here, and he just points at the wall. In the wall is a shoe with a foot in the shoe and a torn ankle, expensive looking argyle sock, and a limply hanging sock garter.
When
And
you
it's
say
also not
in the
cut,
wall,
it's in, as if it were plastered there when the wall was made.
and this is behind the bookshelf. Positionally, I look at the bookshelf. There's no apparent hole through the bookshelf, given the devastation I've seen in here.
No. It's a very expensive shoe.
Look at the desk, look at the sergeant, look at the filing cabinets, tell him anything you can recover from those cabinets. And when I say recover, I kind of give him a very strong look, even though I'm still a little glassy-eyed. I'd appreciate all of it being sent to our office. And I kind of, fumble out a card for him.
You can understand that our manpower is a little pressed if you can supply the transport.
Oh, I could supply the transport.
All right. Still my case.
Wouldn't have it any other way. I don't think I want to look at the detective's office.
Well, that's the thing I was going to show you, is the other side of this. But I didn't want to take you back out through all that mess just to show you the toe part of the shoe coming through the other side of the wall. All the way through the wall.
A definite sense of confusion about how something could even be physically possible. The shoe, the foot in the wall, there's no damage to the bookcase. The bullet-ridden ceiling and walls, the upper part of the room. My mind is kind of swimming from that and from the odor and the gore. I tell the sergeant, I think I've seen enough.
Okay. I sure have. The coroner tells me we're going to have this place cleared in the next 5 or 6 hours. And then after that, we'll be able to deal with the filing cabinets.
That sounds good. You can ring my office and just let my my boss, Bill, know that I'm willing to pay for whatever truck we need to have come down and have the movers bring the cabinets to us.
Yeah, there's a pharmacist at the end of the street, just around the corner. He's got a phone.
Okay. As we're exiting the front, I'm definitely scanning the front again, seeing if Malone's still here, if he's left his position, looking for, the desk sergeant.
The front of the building is really nondescript, except for that front office window, which says Edward Driscoll, Confidential Investigations. Otherwise, it looks like an abandoned building, next to abandoned buildings, across from abandoned buildings. It's a cold and miserable, dark street.
Now, this gentleman I'm with, I don't believe he said his name yet.
He didn't.
Was that, this isn't Sergeant York, is it? The desk sergeant?
Sergeant York is the desk sergeant. Yes, this
Yeah.
is the lieutenant, the detective. He holds
And
out his hand.
I kind of turn to him and I say, you know, I'm sorry with everything that I've just seen. I kind of blanked out on your name again.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, my wife is always berating me for my complete lack of manners. And I guess if I had manners, I'd care. My name, sirs, I'm Lieutenant Gabriel Washburn.
Well, Lieutenant Washburn, if I manage to find anything that can help you guys out, I will definitely let you know. I would appreciate if you have any information that may be forthcoming on the good doctor's past, that you could pass something on to us, maybe a good exchange of information.
Yeah, I think my office is already. You mentioned a Bill Rayner. I think my office is already in contact with him about who died in this altercation, and we'd appreciate any information that your bureau might have in regard to any other mobsters who operate this way.
I shake my head. I say, most mobsters are bag men, gun runners, rum runners. That's not the work of a Tommy gun up there. That's the work of a savage.
Yeah, I was thinking like a gorilla or something.
Yeah, I kind of scoff and cough a little bit, still thinking about the scene. I don't even know if an ape that big would have caused that much mess or been that clean about leaving the bodies in the hands all together like it had.
Oh, it didn't. They were scattered everywhere. We've been trying to assemble them.
I'm going to make my exit. You thank him, shake his hand. I'm going to head to the pharmacist, use the phone to call Bill and say, hey, it's beef stew down here. And we've got, and I kind of laugh, more paper is on the way. Truck will be needed. I'll be more than happy to pay for it to get it to the office.
No, I think the treasurer will actually pay for that. You should come in the office and start the paperwork, and be careful. Eat something on the way in.
I kind of laugh. I'll see you in a minute, Bill. Hang up the phone. Still wobbly, I've got that light belly sensation, eyes starting to clear now that I'm outside in the cold. Now my eyes are more stinging from the cold than it is from the exertion of being sick. Get in the car and head back to the office, to start the paperwork. In the back of my mind, I'm still thinking about need to get to Dad's accounting office. You really need to check it.
It's closer than the Treasury Department is.
Yeah, but I don't feel like I've got my sea legs, so to speak, to be able to walk in there nice, calm, and clean. Plus, coming out of a place like that, I'm sure I smell like an abattoir.
Yeah, you're no longer clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably not very presentable. The shoes are probably messed up. I don't have spares in the car.
You may have to get rid of the shoes.
Yeah. So when I show up at the office, before I get out of the car, I'm going to take a shop towel out of the trunk, wipe the shoes off as best I can, knowing that I'm still going to need to get rid of them, but I don't want to be tracking blood all over the place.
All right. So, do you report to Bill?
Oh, yeah. Go back up straight to Bill.
Before I forget, somebody called from your dad's office. She sounds pretty nice, but maybe a little older, but a really nice voice.
That's probably the front desk secretary. I asked her to check in
Yeah.
on a few things for me. She's probably just following up.
Uh,
Bill, wipe
I,
that
I wish that
smile
were
off your face, Bill. Come on.
I I wish that were the case, but she said they've been trying to contact the young man that you asked them about. So
Well,
yeah,
Steve?
Steve, yeah, Steve. All well,
Oh, well, yeah.
because they can't get a hold of him at the number that you gave them, so they thought maybe they had the number wrong.
Yeah, he's on my list of things to check in on. He's a contact that has been kind of feeding me a little bit of information, but he was in a bad spot. And thinking about what I just saw, I definitely hope he wasn't tied up in any of that.
Okay, he's at a loss for.
I can
So it
see
was
it on your
bad, was
face,
it?
Bill. I'm at a loss too. If you'd have seen what I'd seen, that's not a mob hit. That's not a mob hit. That's a
What is that?
bombshell.
A bomb? There was a bomb?
Might as well have been a bomb.
He bellows for the recorder and he bellows for the stenographer. And
I mean, if he wants to have it recorded, it's not going to be pretty. But I'll tell you what I saw.
okay. So several hours pass and a detailed report, which has to stop several times. And the stenographer is taken out, and one of the younger agents is brought in, who also, maybe more so, gets pale at the description. Um, but you manage to get the report done. All right, you should go home and get cleaned up, says Bill. Meatloaf tonight.
Tonight?
Figures you would, not for you, but now you've spoiled my appetite. I might as well just stay here and sort through all this paperwork.
Hold down the floor, Bill, but head home too. All right? Family's going to be a little bit more important.
Yeah, everybody gets touch and feely when there's a massacre.
I head back to the house.
Okay. Your house is as you left it. Dark and cold.
In the kitchen, I check the calendar, knowing that supposed to have a date on Friday, and today is
Wednesday.
I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm going to wrap any of this up nice and tidy by then. So Thursday, we'll be head to the office, my dad's office, check in on the book.
Okay. Well, a young accountant has been assigned the book. You don't have to meet him. Your dad's head secretary has the book back. She has his report. It's in a manila envelope.
I kind of flip it open as I'm standing there for a little bit, just kind of glaze through and see if I can pick out anything about those book entries that I had specifically mentioned. Are there any other details that this guy might have been able to add to what Steve was saying?
So while you're trying to find your place, she just leans over and says, "Your father's not in, so if you're hoping to arrange some kind of accidental meeting, he's just not here."
It's a little unusual, isn't it?
To not be here?
Well, Dad's always been
He's
kind of a workaholic.
well, yeah. Well, he's working. He's just not working in the office. He's you know, meeting with an important client.
I kind of raised my eyebrows at her. Sounds kind of juicy. Important client, huh?
Yes, imagine the things that you'd know about the city if you worked here.
But isn't that what I got somebody like you for in my life? Somebody to fill me in on all the juicy details when I happen to be too clumsy to overlook them?
Oh, you flatterer. Persuade.
Oh. Fly devil that I am at a 49. You know, I've always found your ability to be discerning probably the most disarming thing.
I have no idea what you said, but it sounds really nice. Look, all I'm going to tell you is this. He's got this new client. He's a new investor. He's really doing a lot to help prop up some of the more important banks. Yeah, so I think you should keep your eye peeled on the newspaper for news about your father representing a very important new businessman in town. His name is Mr. Morgan.
The color kind of drains from my face. Xavier Morgan.
You didn't hear
Right.
that from me.
I get a bit of a the serious edge starts to come into my face, and I say, it's probably about time I have a talk with Dad. We haven't really said much to each other in a while, but
Shall I put something in the books?
if you would, at a convenient time for my father.
He's free on. And a sad look crosses her face, which she kind of professionally hides. He's free to talk to you on Friday afternoon. Next week.
Okay. That would be a good time for me as well. Did I tell you that I kind of, since we're kind of bantering a little bit here and she's been very serious, you know, I'm gathering my stuff up, get my Gladstone. I say, did I tell you I got a date?
You break my heart. With whom?
Oh, a work friend's friend, I guess. He's been
Oh,
pressuring me a lot.
You've been set up. That's good. That
You
usually
know, I don't
works.
like, I kind of laugh, you know, I don't like that way of saying it. Set up sounds more like a trap to me when somebody says I'm being set up.
Oh, people always kick harder when they think it's going to be terrible, but then they regret it when they realize how wonderful it is. Congratulations.
I just want you to know this doesn't affect our relationship at all. Okay?
Then there should be more chocolate and flowers on my desk.
I'll make that a point. And you got a good one at that. Thanks for letting me know about Dad and setting up the appointment. I think it's about time.
I've got you in pen. Friday afternoon, 2:00.
Okay.
Next week.
Next week. I never really had a very strong relationship with Steve Allwell.
Right, the young man. We weren't able to reach him. Did you get my message?
Yeah, Bill let me know. You got a phone book behind that desk? I'm gonna need to get his address real quick. So, you know, try and track down where the phone is connected to his address, get a location.
Yes. You can do that through the operator. They're not supposed to tell you, but they will.
Yeah,
so she brings up brings out the phone book.
Okay. Try and track down his home, get the address, and then that's where I want to head next.
Okay. Again, that's pretty easy. Now, the Allwell address is not a nice neighborhood. Not abandoned like where you were most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of houses with tar paper roofs and windows covered over with newsprint, and not much in the way of automobiles or things like that. It's not a shanty town, but if the depression goes on too much longer, it may go that way.
It's sliding into a slum.
Yeah. And if all the information that you have is correct, this mostly blue and white house is where his phone is registered.
Okay. Bag in hand, make my way to the front door. Give it a good solid knock. Steve, are you home?
The door is yanked open. This huge matronly woman with an apron, and gray hair all tied back. She says, "Tired of..." She goes, "Steve, Mr. Allwell, rents an apartment in the back. He has his own door. He has his own bell." And
Eyebrows raised.
slams the door.
My head, pivot on my heels and toes, and foot it to the back. Taking note of whether or not the amount of traffic that has come through this area towards his place has or has not been covered by snow.
It has, although, not as much snow as was piled up in the center of the city. Just a dusting.
Okay.
There are no tracks.
Okay.
So he hasn't gotten any mail, he hasn't got a newspaper, he hasn't gone out or come back or any of those things since the snow fell.
Okay.
And you can see through the several layers of newsprint across the window that there's a light inside.
Knock hard and heavy. Steve, are you in there? Yeah, my dad says,
No.
The secretary says you haven't made it into the office.
No answer.
After repeated knock, a couple more knocks and shouts, still no answer. Looking around. Am I in a covered area? Is there like a eave, like a small stoop roof that hangs over where I'm standing at?
The property lines are pretty close. Right? There's not much more space between the houses than would be wide enough for a car. And this particular between houses section has cordwood stacked up, right, to about this high. It doesn't seem like anybody in the next house is looking out. And again, their windows, to keep the draft out, are also covered up with newsprint. And
check Steve's windows just to double check again if there's any way to kind of rip or tear, might be able to see inside.
There's glass on the outside and the newsprint on the
newsprint's on the inside. But no opening to be able to get a visual.
The window itself
is loose.
Raised. Yeah.
Okay. Reaching into the Gladstone, pulling out the tire bar, the iron, normally be part of the kit. Just open the window enough to see in. Okay. I'm not going to open it far enough to climb in, but I want to be able to see.
So it looks like this apartment that he has is arranged with this kind of small window looking into the kitchen. Right. So you can just see the edge of the sink right? And maybe a piece of the counter going off, right? So you're looking out into the kitchen floor, but also out into the what would be the living room or the main room area.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see as if someone is laying face down on the floor, 2 pairs of shoes and trousered legs.
The front door, is it a solid door, multi-window pane door, like a half and half? Like the upper
It's
half is small window pane,
no, it's just all
all door.
wood. It's actually an interior door used as an exterior door.
Gotcha. I'll use the tire iron bar to lever the door.
Yeah.
Yep. And once the door is open and is a bit ajar, into the bag it goes, and out comes the 45.
Okay.
Toes on the door, start to swing it open.
There's a light on inside, right? Spills out into where you're standing. And from the open doorway, just standing in the open doorway, you can see the body stretching away from you. Right? So you can see the soles of the shoes and then up the trouser legs, right? And then, Steve was not a big guy, right? So he's bundled up, with a couple of sweaters on and that kind of stuff. And his arms are straight out to the side, and he's not laying with his cheek on the floor. He's lying with the front of his face
down
on the
floor.
Yeah.
Making my way across the floor to him, keeping my eyes peeled. I'm going to kneel down, put my left hand, gun in right, put my left hand on reaching across, putting it on the part of his neck. Can I feel any pulse?
He's cold.
He's cold. Blood on the floor?
Not a lot, but yes.
Below
Coming
the
out
head?
from underneath.
Underneath
No,
and
from
front.
this area.
Okay. I'm going to leave him where he's at. I'm not going to roll him over. I start investigating the house. So the room I'm in here, kitchen over there that I was kind of looking through, so I know where that.
Yeah, so there's a table, like a couple of chairs. There's a half-eaten meal on the kitchen counter. The room he's going into, has a kind of a ratty armchair, and it has one small little table, like too low really to eat on, but that's probably what he uses it for. Has a radio, and it has a cot. And that's really it for Steve's spaces, other than a closet and a wardrobe. He's got a built-in closet, and he has a wardrobe. But as you're moving around, right, one of his hands, his left hand, is open on the floor. His right hand is in a fist.
Okay. Thinking that the only two ways he could get a wound to the chest or abdomen is going to be shot or stabbed. He's facing this direction. So as I'm walking back towards him from the back, I'm kind of looking at the floor. I know I walked through this area.
If he fell forward, his back would have been to the door, his side to the kitchen, and his front toward the radio and the cot and the chair.
Okay. Looking towards the front of the house from here, there's no bullet hole or anything that I might obviously see from a missed shot before he did get hit. Nothing. Okay.
And nothing out the back. His
sweater
is undisturbed.
Yeah. It could have gotten lodged somewhere, maybe. Didn't go all the way through. Once I'm sure that the room is clear and secure, then I'll flip him over. I'll close the front door first, flip him over to see what the wound looks like on the front. Bullet hole, stab wound.
No, it's like his heart was scooped up. Unbidden, the idea of a melon baller comes to mind.
Okay. I'm a little choked up, looking at Steve, thinking about what he was going through, about how I was really committed to try and help this guy out. The scene in the doctor's office, the carnage there, its contrast with this. I'm trying to console myself as my eyes are stinging, thinking about Steve's potential, that he wasn't there, that he wasn't massacred in that way. But it still galls me that this is how he's killed. I put him back on his face. I'm not gonna toss the place. I'm not gonna ransack it, but I am gonna look if there's a carpet on the floor. I'm gonna move it a little, try and see,
As you roll him back down to where he was, there's the clatter on the cheap wooden flooring of something like ceramic.
I'm kind of glancing around, in a room like this, all the wood and everything, just trying to see if I could, did something scatter on the floor?
So his right hand is flopped open, and a small black object about the width of his palm has rolled out of it.
Using the barrel of my gun, I'm going to kind of move it around, see if I can get a good look at it.
It is, well, it has an oval shape at one end, and it's a bit wider just past that oval shape, and then it has kind of a crisscrossed kind of design on the front. It's almost like it's a hunched figure, very inartistically expressed in clay.
So now it's not detailed. It's kind of roughly
formless.
Hewn, formless, but
it's suggestive of.
Yeah, it's very suggestive of a position. Okay. Reach into my inner coat pocket, pull out a handkerchief. I'm going to wrap that thing up. That goes into the Gladstone bag. Looking around the room, I'm kind of getting madder and madder the more I stay here.
Yeah.
But I needed to know. Still with gun in hand, I'm gonna move towards the front door. Look back at Steve and just say, I'll have somebody come to collect you. I'm sorry I couldn't be here to help you. Head to the car and bolt.
And we'll bring the session to a close here.
Nice. Whoa, man, that's a lot of leg work, buddy. I wasn't kidding. I wasn't kidding when I said I was going to burn up some shoe leather.
You worked hard.
Yeah. Well, it's I had to gain some ground. I mean, yeah, I know something's going on, but up until this session, which I think is pretty good timing, because it's had to build, right? It feels like the progression has been appropriate. It's not rushed.
Good.
It hasn't dragged out. But I also knew that if I wanted to find anything, Alex has to get out there. He's just
Yes.
got to start doing what he's supposed to do. He's got to be
Yep.
an investigator. He's got to be the Treasury agent. What's the connection we need? There were a lot of, I don't know if any of it was intentional or how much you had developed as we moved along. Because I know I was kind of like, I think the fortune teller thing came out of the blue for you.
I loved it though. That was awesome.
Some of the details did really start to coalesce together into a good, and I like how this is just now the point where, as the solo player, still the solo player, is just now touching on what's been happening elsewhere. This is the first, like, not barely even a brush between the two groups of participants,
Right.
which is cool. Horrific. Like I said, I haven't been watching any of their episodes because I don't want to be tainted
Yeah.
with any meta knowledge. So I can only imagine that a classic abandon all hope and open up the guns of Navarone scene going on there. He who moved the slowest was the one who probably got eaten first.
Right. Could be.
And that's the good thing. I mean, it's kind of important to me not to watch that. I mean, I definitely, after we'd kind of gone for quite a while.
I'll
I
let
think
you
at
know
this
when
point,
we pass any
yeah.
point where it could spoil something for you.
Well, like, I think now I could feel comfortable watching maybe the first real episode with Ivan. What about the second?
Yep, you could watch
episode
the first and the second
Okay.
and the third. You could watch the first, second, and third, and you'd be
First
fine.
three? Okay.
But then stop there because the research starts after that.
Okay. No, that's sounds perfect. And the the classic Cthulhu effigy, that's with the two great ways to end both sessions. The encounter with Xavier, his definite occult feeling, his oiliness, even though there's all this now going on that I'm hearing about, now that my family's involved, now my interest in seeing Dad is heightened because I get I would sure you would believe that now Alex has a sense that it's okay as long as my life is at risk.
Right.
But now you're starting to, I feel like you're crossing the line.
Right.
When Dad gets involved, even though Dad and I have had a rough relationship, he's still Dad.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Even though it's still just a couple of rolls, without the necessity for them, and I think it's moved really well. It definitely, I had the feeling at some point you were going to say it's all just a little too much. So I was actually listening for it this time, and I knew it would probably be in the office. I just didn't know how far is he going to go for the description for it to all build up.
Well, so my thought process there was Alex was putting on a real strong face, and he's bantering. You haven't been in an abattoir, and he's kind of like,
oh yeah,
trying to
sound tough,
toughen himself up, or like prepare himself. But I mean, this is one of those situations where words really fail you, and not being in the same room together also kind of lessens the impact, I think. But but I thought at a certain point that as long as you are moving forward, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. But then as soon as you stop, it's like, okay, now I'm going to open these filing cabinets, and there's no way to touch them. So I thought, this is the point. This is the moment. Yeah.
Speaking of which, since it's a failed roll,
2 points.
2 points. Okay. I just want to make sure I get that noted here. Move that from down to 34.
So because it was such an overwhelming sensory overload, I didn't again ask you to roll for the leg in the wall,
Yeah.
because I just felt that that's all part of the same
Oh no.
particular scene. And
Yeah.
then, still reeling from that, we encounter Steve Allwell, and his wound is far less significant
Yeah.
than what you've just seen. So again, I didn't call for one, but it may have add-on effects later.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's, even though this, I think in Alex's case, he does have that sense that he comes from a place of privilege. He does want to be the type of person who is going to do right by people.
Right.
And now he's lost. He lost this chance that he was trying to do the right thing for someone who was probably, for the most part, trying to do the right thing by what they thought.
And you see how he's living right in this tiny little space.
This is where he was at, know.
And nothing in it except a radio and all of his, his handwritten copies of companies' books and things. And, half-eaten, plated. He didn't even get to finish his dinner before someone killed him.
And I mean, I know we'll pick it up again, but this is definitely one of those things where I'm not going to say anything to anybody but Bill. I'm not going to talk to, the family about Washburn. I'm not going to talk to anybody else, but this is going to go straight to Bill, so that evidently the only people who know about this are the perpetrator and us. This is for our investigation. This isn't going to go into the wider stream, with the police officers and what happened at the private detective offices. Because this is personal.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think because so far I have not been successful in making a sanity check. Do the descriptions of the reactions seem appropriate? Do they place it within the context of what's going on? Do you think they're underdone, over? I know I haven't really overdone anything, but
all of our sanity checks have been in the 1 and 2 point range, and these are met with purely animal physical effects: nausea, dizziness, and 3 and 4 is much stronger, that the desire to do something,
fight or flight, almost.
Not yet. That's when we get up even higher, but into the 5s, when we start getting into the now temporary insanity range. But I think it's been right on, right? And I think the portrayal helps us understand what kind of fellow he is, right? Like, I'm not going to throw up. I'm not going to throw. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to keep it in. I'm not going to vomit in front of this man. And then, all right, well, I am going to vomit in front of this man, but I'm not going to make a big deal of it.
I'm going to hide it from everybody else. If I can just get it between my legs and straight to the floor, I'll be okay.
Yeah. And fortunately for you, the Lieutenant Gabriel Washburn is a human being.
Yeah. That was one of the things I was a little worried about, especially after purposely asking about, oh God, now I can't.
Malone.
Malone, asking about Malone being present, right? That was one of the when he was spotted, I was a little worried that, especially with the desk officer being there, how that would go. I did want to put the information out on the table once I saw that it was the desk officer, trying to figure out, did he do this on his own? And when he volunteered the information about, well, I kind of suggest that he might want to follow up with you, although I didn't suggest go to his house.
Right.
But that was obviously after the having the interaction with Malone. Obviously, the come to my house was from a different alternate motivation. So,
yeah,
I think a lot of it fits together nicely. It doesn't feel forced.
Good.
You know, it definitely doesn't feel like a railroad at all. Like, I know you don't really like plot out a lot of this. And
right.
heck, when you're playing with people like me, it's kind of hard to plot out, one after one after one, unless at the end of every session, it's like, hey, what do you plan on doing next week? So I can be a little ready at least, maybe an NPC or two or a location or something. So I enjoy your ability to adapt and adapt pretty quickly. The fortune teller, was great. Heading back to the gym, those are two places where the fortune teller is new, although it does feel very apropos. I've got this tarot card.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being watched. There's this hoodoo, voodoo. I don't understand. Who do I go to?
Right.
Okay,
Because
tarot card.
it's still pretty popular.
Oh yeah. Well, by this time in the 30s, it's not really referred to really as mesmerism and
right. Hypnosis is on the way in, and
hypnosis
but
is on the way
Houdini's
in.
starting to debunk.
Yeah, the tricks are starting to be shown. And then the boxing gym, even though that was just I need to blow off steam, where would Alex go?
Where would he go?
Well, he's a boxer. Let's hit the rope.
It's not like he can go get a drink somewhere.
No. Yeah. And it's also pretty apparent that's not what he does at his own house either. He's not I have never included that as being I am a Treasury agent. I was in the Prohibition, but I am on the sly. So I've been trying to keep that sense of not white knight, but I'm a clean cop, right? I do believe in the law. I want to have that perceived.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious. I was pleased with some of the things the irrelevant things that I was pushing your way. I was pleased with your reaction. So like Bill trying to set you up with someone his wife knows, and the cold, empty house.
Yeah.
And not really knowing who the neighbors are, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So the isolation of Alex Thornton. There's some things that you've put out there that he's in this job. I shouldn't be married.
Yeah.
And then there's the world kind of coming back at you, like Dad's secretary wants to set you up with someone. The guy you work with wants to set you up with someone. It's not normal to be your age and not married.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Well, this goes back to that gifting thing. When I hear you do things like that, that's part of being present. That's part of being attentive to what the participants are passing back and forth, right? So while we could turn comments like that into idle banter, and jokingly portray that, it is a serious thing. So how does Alex take that, and I also like to try and I like to leave that information like I have been doing. This is how Alex is doing it. He's replying on his way out the door. He's trying to get away from that situation, So how does it come off, right? What would be your reaction? We talk about playing as character, in character as character. Right. I think that's a very solid detail from what you may think is, some of this set dressing or set interaction.
Well, yeah, I think of it all as being important. I want us to experience the world, and we can't experience every minute.
Oh yeah,
right. But while Alex is racing across town to go to the site of this massacre, We could have used some of this time to describe Depression era Boston.
Yeah.
Or we could have had a real conversation with Bill. Right? We're not going to have you repeat every detail that Alex Thornton has learned and describe the face of the guy for this guy. We're not going to use our time for that. We're going to gloss over that detail, but that's you and Bill spending hours together.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have to have a better sense of how they talk to each other on a story layer. But just for me, if I'm trying to represent Bill, when I sit down to think, okay, what I'm going to say now is Bill. I want to experience. I want to channel Bill. Right? He's not going to want to talk about any of this stuff. He's never going to get up out of this desk chair, right? And when you walk out the door and walk down the hall, he's still talking to you.
Yeah.
He doesn't really need you to be present.
Oh, no.
Have this conversation. That kind of thing, I think, has some value and gives the more horrific moments greater contrast and context.
Yes, definitely. And I've used the term a lot, right? The shoe leather, right? Where are we burning it up? We could burn it up, like you say, we could go over every detail, but how much more is that really going to be effective?
Right.
When you're talking about the idea of traveling from the office to the scene, that's where my visualization takes over in my head. And it's just, and really, it's just one of those things where the scenes you've seen from movies, the scenes of the travel scene. And so that just blips by in my own head. That's the kind of shoe leather scene that a lot of people talk about just cutting out. Well, you get, the hex crawl. Well, you get from point A to point B. Nothing really happens in between. Whatever you want to imagine it looking like is what it looks like. I'm traveling down a sloshy, snowy road. It's dark, gray, overcast, because that's what winter is like all the time here in the United States on the East Coast. It's this constant, uniform, neutral color until we get to that scene where pull up in front of the police. Now they're the boys in blue. Now here's where the shoe leather and the work of investigating is going to pay off. Here's where we can play some important parts of the back and forth. Yeah. And that's a hard part for me is, a lot of people talk about bleed. My imagination can become so overactive that, those scenes just play automatically. I don't have to, well, gosh, what would it look like? So as you're talking, even as you're just kind of talking and pausing, right, those scenes are still playing out. What does it look like for me to get out of the car? I can't find a parking space. As you're describing that, that's what Alex is going through in my own head.
Yeah.
I want to get to a spot to where if I need to be able to see my car. Well, I can't do that. Well, crap. Now I'm picturing Alex turning around and kind of backing up a little bit and trying to get a different vantage point. I need to get close. Nobody better break into my car down here with all these cops. And the first thing I'm looking for is Malone. Or the first thing I look for is the sergeant lieutenants, but now I want to know if
Malone who else is here.
Yeah. And because he's the only cop I want to stay away from,
Right. Yeah. All right. Thanks for playing.
Oh, thank you for running. I greatly appreciate it.
Cool. I will talk to you soon.
Imagine a life of satisfaction.